Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. We've got some big news at this hour. The Supreme Court has unanimously ruled against the Trump administration in a case regarding a Maryland man that the administration wrongfully arrested and deported to an El Salvador mega prison last month. His name is Kilmar Abrego Garcia. We had his lawyer on the program just this week. Just over a week ago, the White House admitted in court that Garcia's deportation was a result of an administrative error. Because, you see, back in 2019, Donald Trump was president during that time, you might imagine, he got protected immigration status, which meant he had an active order that he could not be removed or deported. And yet, he was rounded up by the Trump administration anyway. And after they admitted to it in court, they refused to do anything about it. Basically, their stance was, whoopsie, we made an oopsie. He's in an El Salvador supermax. You'll never hear from him again. What do you want from us? Well, just about 2 hours ago, the Supreme Court weighed in unanimously. They now say that a district court, which previously ruled in this case, can indeed instruct the Trump administration to facilitate Garcia's return home. It will not be immediate, but the court says the White House has to start taking those steps. Now, because he's not in U.S. custody, he's in the custody of a foreign government, El Salvador, there's still a lot of open questions here. But fundamentally, the core issue in this and related litigation swirling around this maneuver the Trump administration has taken has been this. Can a president use the dubious invocation of a 200-year-old law, the Alien Enemies Act, which has only been used previously in wartime, to justify basically snatching anyone off the streets and then quickly shipping them off to a foreign prison where they will never be heard from again with zero due process? None. Now, to my mind, and the minds of, I think, many legal observers, the answer to that question has always been flatly no. If the Constitution protects against anything, it protects against that. But it has been a matter of whether or not this 6-3 conservative Supreme Court would acknowledge that reality. Well, that's why tonight's such a big deal. Today's decision from the court is, at the very least, an indication that at a baseline they will, and it is very, very striking, there were no dissents here. The administration did not even get Clarence Thomas or Samuel Alito or Neil Gorsuch on their side writing in their defense. So to put it lightly, that is not very common from this court when it comes to high-stakes issue having to do with paying deference to Donald Trump. Leah Littman is a professor at University of Michigan Law School, co-host of the Strict Scrutiny podcast, along with Melissa Murray and my wife, Kate Shaw. She's also the author of a forthcoming book, Lawless, which is out next month, and you can pre-order now. Leah, it's great to have you on the program. Like, it's just... this stuff gets very complicated procedurally, but what is your reading of this unanimous order from the court?
So it is good news. It's better than what might have happened, but I think it's far from perfect and it's far from over, because what the Supreme Court did is they left in place the portion of the district court order that required the government to facilitate Mr. Abrego Garcia's return. But they indicated that the district court needed to clarify what the court meant by directing the government to effectuate, i.e. actually bring about Mr. Abrego Garcia's return. And they suggested that the court might actually lack the power to direct the government to effectuate the return. So that creates this kind of liminal space. What's the difference between facilitate and effectuate? What can the district court actually order the government to do? Can the government come back and say, well, we tried, and El Salvador said, no, sorry, we won't return him? Would that be sufficient? And that's a sort of ambiguity that the Supreme Court's decision left open, and that I'm very concerned the administration is going to try to drive a truck through and, take advantage of that ambiguity to delay, if not prevent, Mr. Abrego Garcia's return.
Yeah, I mean, we should say the district court judge here is Judge Boasberg, who has been the subject of a lot of...
So this judge is actually Judge Zinnes.
I'm sorry, this is not the Boasberg one. The Boasberg one is another, thank you very much, is another line of cases having to do with the Alien Enemies Act. This judge here had said, the district court judge had said basically, you have to go bring this guy back. Like, this is not right. You can't just say, nothing we can do. What do you want, Judge, right? So the Supreme Court basically says, rejects the argument by the Department of Justice arguing for Trump that, like, there's nothing we can do. They stop short of saying you must bring him back, and they come down in the middle of, like, you got to try, basically?
I think that that's right. And I think that's why we can't give the Supreme Court too much credit right now. We have to wait to see what they are actually going to do by way of enforcing the order. And specifically, are they going to allow the court to hold the administration's feet to the fire and actually prove what the administration has tried to do and prove that doing other things might not be possible? Because the reality is that the administration negotiated an agreement with El Salvador. So El Salvador is detaining individuals pursuant to an agreement with the United States. And I think that makes it very likely that a single phone call from President Trump, the United States, could make El Salvador return Mr. Abrego Garcia. And the fact that they haven't done that already is appalling. And I'm very concerned that they are going to do what they have been doing in all of these other cases and try to obscure and obfuscate and go into court and say, well, we tried, and you can't inquire into that any further beyond our statement that we have tried and done the right thing. And unless the Supreme Court is going to allow the lower court to actually probe the administration's representations and to get them to prove that they have made their best good faith efforts to return Mr. Abrego Garcia, I think everyone should still be focused on this case and trying to convince, the public, the courts, and the country that this administration needs to ensure Mr. Abrego Garcia is returned to the United States.
Yeah, to your point there, I mean, in the other line of cases that have to do with Judge Boasberg, who was the judge who ordered those planes to turn around, and they didn't turn them around. And the president of El Salvador, Bukele, tweeted, oops, too late. And that was retweeted by Marco Rubio. And the whole kind of idea was like, no, you can't touch us. That I don't think it's a mischaracterization to say that the posture of the Trump administration in court has been one of truculence, insolence, like bordering on outright like insubordination in front of the courts about what the court can make them do.
I think that's exactly right. I think in any other administration, we could expect some good faith compliance with the directive to try to get Mr. Abrego Garcia's return. And I think we could expect them to give honest, straightforward answers about what they've tried to do and what is possible. We can't expect that from this administration, who walked into Judge Boasberg's court, and when the judge asked them, what did you do? Did you turn the planes around? What directives were given? All they said is, well, we complied with your order, and we are not authorized to say anything else. And that kind of obfuscation could make it much harder for the courts to actually ensure Mr. Abrego Garcia's return. And that is what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, and we should just note here, there are enormous human stakes for Mr. Abrego Garcia, as well as other plaintiffs who are suing here, who are in a supermax prison under what I think really can only be fairly described as appalling conditions, with no means out, like at all, as far as we can tell. Men basically stacked like cordwood and, 23 and a half hours a day in captivity and not allowed to do anything. So these are very, very, very urgent questions for the individuals that have been sent there. Leah Littman, thank you so much for making some time in the breaking news.